The next team we're going to discuss today, a Fountains Up there in Kansas City. Now, this is one of the first plays that I made this year in the futures market is on the Kansas City Royals. So I want to get your thoughts on that, but also going to get Joel Goldberg's thoughts on it. He does a great job with the Kansas City Royals in their broadcast team, and give him a follow on X at Goldberg in KC right there on X. Joins us now on the Progressive Guest Line. Joel, great to have you on the program here. Jensen and I are very excited about talking about this Royals team this year. Came up a little bit short last year in the win totals, but this year, maybe the expectations are a little bit low, and I kind of like that as a better. Where do we look at the Royals this year? Because I feel like this team might be better this year than the one we saw last year.
Yeah, I think they are, Dave. Good to see you, and kind of good to see Jensen. No, I'm just kidding. You know, I love you, buddy. But I think that to just start right out of the way on that one. Let's go. I think they feel like they underachieved last year, which I know, everybody's going to say you fell a little bit short, but they were in the playoffs 2 years ago. They went backwards a little bit last year. They fully expect to go forward last year. And I think, too, I don't know, you guys know this better than me. Is that number low because of what they did last year? Because 2 years ago, I think the number, you guys may remember or may not, was higher last year. They also came into last year saying, odds are we're not going to be as healthy as we were in 2024. They're not the greatest predictors of all time, but odds would have told you that if they were so perfectly healthy or close to it in 2024, something was going to go wrong in 2025, and it did.
Joel, we've watched enough of this team, and I think last year, looking out of the chute, if this team offensively were league average and they had a healthy Cole Reagans, I think they make the postseason and then some. That to me was out of the gates. They had to make up so much ground, if you will, with Detroit being as hot as they were. From where you saw them last year to what we have out in camp in Arizona this year, and of course, headline with Bobby Witt Jr. will be an MVP candidate. Is this team better year over year from where you see them right now headed into 2026?
Yeah, I think, on paper, they're incrementally better. I think that they were able to make some small gains, which I think that they've said for a number of years too, Jensen. And I think this is probably true of just about everybody in the division. I don't know. I mean, I suppose that, there's no Yankee type of team or any payroll like that. So you got to find a way to get better on the margins. And I think that they did that on paper by going out there. They traded on Angel Serpa, who was a good left-handed reliever for them, and they were able to get back Isaac Collins, who fills a lot of holes for them, and a switch hitter and a guy that gets on base. So that should make the offense better at this point. They also got a reliever in that deal. They went out there and they traded away Jonathan Bolin, who was a long reliever. I was turning into a shorter reliever, actually, but a former starter. And they upgraded to Matt Strahm. And so they feel like they upgraded their bullpen. They feel like they did upgrade their lineup. They were looking for one big, not big name, but bigger hitter, someone they could get more towards the middle of that lineup. Maybe they found a piece of that in signing Starling Marte the other day, who I don't think he'll start every single day, but suddenly gives you a very proven bat against left-handed pitching. And he had good numbers last year. So I think they're better, but I'll still get back to the health and the pitching. They went into last year with a decent amount of depth in the rotation, and there came a point where they only had three guys. That's why they ultimately ended up trading Freddie Fermin for Ryan Bergert and Stephen Kolek, and suddenly they had to rebuild back. We end up seeing the debut of Noah Cameron last year because of the health of Cole Reagans, and maybe just a little bit earlier than some people expected. He ended up being third in Rookie of the Year voting in the American League. So now suddenly they've got this rotation again that has 7, 8, 9 guys in it.
Joel, when you look at MVP, and Jensen mentioned it here with Bobby Witt Jr., that he will be, right now he's the second betting choice behind Aaron Judge in New York to win MVP in the American League. So I think everybody, at least in the betting market, says we know how good this guy is. For the people that don't watch him every day like you do, can you tell the people that might not be watching a lot of Kansas City Royal baseball why Bobby Witt Jr. is up there in the MVP consideration?
I think you just start with the fact that he's a legitimate five-tool player. And how many five-tool players are there in the game anymore? And he's a legitimate five-tool player playing shortstop. So can you bat him first? There's some talk about that actually right now because they've been batting him a little bit leadoff because that's what he may do for the Team USA for World Baseball Classic. So that could be interesting too, because they haven't really had a leadoff man. And does he turn into that leadoff man? And you got to start with him. Either way, he's going to contend to lead for the league in hits every single year. There's still more power in there, but he can hit for power. The speed is obviously off the charts. And the defense is just, I mean, it's jaw-dropping to watch what he does. He makes one of those type of plays almost every single night. Here's the other piece to it, guys, and let's not forget, he's just 25 years old. He's got 4 years in the big leagues already. He's a quiet kid, not someone that won't talk, incredibly polite. You know, he's a true Texas yes sir, no sir kind of guy, as polite and respectful as you can. But I think he's finding his voice a little bit too. He's considered one of the leaders on this team, more of a quiet leader. But every one of those guys looks at him because he's doing freakish things. I mean, the guys that are in that clubhouse right now know that they're playing with a guy that one day they'll tell their grandkids about. That's the easiest way to put it. So he does everything well. I think everybody at this point believes that he's a future Hall of Fame type. Obviously, we're early in his career. But if you look at what he's already done, and I love the fact that he says, well, I guess last year was a down year. Because he was a little bit under where he had been the year before. And it's like, no, I think most teams would take that almost any day of the week. But he's becoming more of a leader. He's becoming he was never lacking confidence, by the way. He understands so much of this team revolves around him.
No doubt. He could be an easy 30-30 candidate this year, and that's where I want to go offensively. Big changes there at Kauffman Stadium, and significant to our audience because it will not only affect how the offense may be overall here, Joel, but also some totals. When that weather gets hot and humid, as you and I well know there, ball starts to travel. For people that don't realize how significant the changes here are to left field and right field as far as the fences coming in, from your vantage point, what will that do for the Royals offense right out of the chute?
You know what I think, and Jensen, you loved pitching in Kansas City in say, April, or Cleveland or Detroit, right? I mean, boy, nobody likes to hit in those places in April or May. And there's something to that, too. I mean, why does Cleveland and Kansas City, why do teams like that seem to struggle out of the gate offensively? They're not the only ones, by the way, playing in cold weather cities either. But when you add in the ballpark and the weather, it becomes a really tough place to hit early in the season. I'd say this, guys, that at least based on the studies they did, and it's, look, if you're into numbers, and I'm not talking the way that you guys are into numbers, but there's some similarity in the sense of just this deep dive of dissecting maybe what others can't find. The amount of research that the Royals did, and I suspect any team's analytics department would do this, but the amount of research they did on weather patterns and what happens if they move it in this far, and what does it do for this number, and what does it do for this? It's unbelievable what they did. I think the number that they ended up coming up with is that they expect that this would lead to like one extra home run per series. So it's not like suddenly there's 1 or 2 more home runs per game. It's not like suddenly Kauffman Stadium is a home run hitter's park. I think there are a couple things that happen, and I think that this will certainly be of interest to your viewers as well, and to you guys, is that I think it's just going to affect their overall offense. I think you're going to see more doubles, balls that were going to be caught at the warning track now, maybe going off of the wall. We know, I mean, Jensen, you know that the challenge, one of the challenges of pitching at Kauffman Stadium is all that open space in the outfield. And so if flyouts to the warning track are now turning into doubles or triples, does it have to be another home run? It does put a runner in scoring position. So I think it makes this offense better. How much better? I don't know, and I don't know how much that'll show up in your numbers, but I think you will see more offense from the Royals and other teams as well. And then I think the other last piece to it is just the psychological standpoint. You know, those players are going to be good about not going on camera and complaining about this and that. It is their home stadium, and they love it there. But there are a lot of times where they're going back to the dugout saying, that should have been something more. And not 3 times a year or 6 or 7 times a year for teams in the division that come there 81 times a year.
Enjoying our conversation here with Joel Goldberg from the Kansas City Royals broadcast team. We only have about a minute to go here, Joel. Who should I get more excited about in this rotation? Should it be Chris Bubich coming off injury? Because he was up there. We were talking about him up there for Cy Young for a little bit last year. Or Noah Cameron, as you mentioned earlier, coming off that rookie year. Which one of those guys at the, quote, back end of the rotation should I be more excited about?
I like them both, and they're interesting. 2 lefties. I think In terms of statistics and abilities, I think that both of them you should be excited about, but they're also in different places of their career. Bubic is getting closer to free agency. Bubic is getting, with that, maybe more of a trade candidate. I've heard Cameron's name mentioned as a possible trade candidate as well with the surplus in pitching, but you got a lot of years of service, 5 more years of service. Here's a quick one, and some people agree with this, some people don't, but we saw a lot of this this past year. Noah Cameron has some Mark Burley in him for whatever that's worth. Ooh. He's just a guy that's going to figure it out and grind. He's not going to overpower anyone, but he's figuring out how to do it, and he already has a pretty good idea at a very young age.